All right, let's take a look at the rest of 10.6. We've got some notes on angle of elevation and angle of depression. The important thing to remember when we're talking about angle of elevation or angle of depression is you always want to measure or label from the horizontal line. The common mistake for especially angle of depression is a lot of kids will draw this picture in and they'll try to put the angle here, but the angle needs to be labeled from the horizontal. So if we're talking about an angle of elevation, we always want to put our angle here or our angle of elevation there. A lot of times we're talking about sight lines, this person looking down at an angle or this person looking up at an angle. But we always label from our horizontal. Let's look at an example. All right, here's our problem. We are standing 125 feet from a tower, and we're looking up at the top of the tower with an angle of elevation of 57.2 degrees. So the question is, how tall is the tower? So let's take a look. I have the adjacent side. I want the opposite side of this angle. So what trig equation should I use? Let's use the tangent because I know the opposite. I want the opposite and I have the adjacent. So tangent of 57.2 degrees equals the opposite over the adjacent. Multiply the 125 over. And A is going to equal 194, and in this case, feet. Does that make sense? Looks good to me. All right, let's find the sine, cosine, and tangent of angle A. In order to do that, we will need the adjacent side, so we'll use Pythagorean theorem. 26 squared equals 10 squared plus side B squared. Do our subtraction and our square root, and we should get B is 24. B is 24. 12 times 2. Good. So now we can fill in on our ratios. The sine of A is the opposite over the hypotenuse. The cosine of A is the adjacent over the hypotenuse. And the tangent of A is the opposite over the adjacent. Cool. Our last kind of real-world example. Mr. Richard is camping, and he's got his campsite here. And he wants to know how far is it across the lake if he swims from point C to point B. And of course we can't measure it because it's over the water. But if we measure from A to C is 630 yards, and I use my angle measuring transit, I get an angle of 40 degrees looking to B. So what trig ratio should I use? Let's go with, again, I want the opposite side. I've got the adjacent side. So tangent's the appropriate ratio. So A over 630, multiply the 630 over 630 times the tan of 40 degrees. All right, 528 yards across the blue lake.